Now, discrimination and stigma are major factors that impede the access of key populations to their fundamental rights as citizens of Nigeria. A lot is left unsaid about the challenges they face and its overall impact on their well-being and self-actualization. So who are these key populations, and how can we overcome societal prejudices that impede the freedom for them to be themselves? We are being joined now in the studio by Martins Umbo and Dr. Juliet Umerem. Pleasure to have you. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
So let's start with the catchphrase here, free to be me. You know, it's an open question. Anyone can start first. Go ahead.
Okay, so it just describes, it's a simple phrase that's just the way it connotes. So just allow the person be the person's self. Yeah.
So what are the factors that actually stop people from being themselves in the country? Because the first time I saw the catchphrase, I know it just resonated with things I'd seen or popular media and all of that. But in Nigeria, does free to be me actually make any meaning?
Yeah, the term is just supposed to create enlightenment that people should be allowed to be themselves, you know. People shouldn't judge people for who they are or what they identify as or who they claim to be or who they say they are. So you should just allow them express themselves as they please.
All right, Mr. Martins, now we're looking at people who are judged. Can you tell us about this population that is grossly misjudged or, you know, just discriminated against, for lack of better words?
Okay, we have the key population. Mm-hmm. Before we transited to the key population, we have a consortium of people that we call the MAPs. And these MAPs are referred to as most at-risk persons. Okay, that was dated back many years ago. All right, but because of the transcendent things that are happening in the society, okay, we now decided to separate the MAPs from the key population. The MAPs connotes both the people that are in the military, road safety, and even the key population. But before now, that's actually what we have. But recently now, we have to separate them because of their several levels of identification. Now, this key population, they are people of different typology. We are looking at men that have sex with men as one of the members of the key population. We have people who inject drugs as a typology of its own also. We also have people that are in custodial centers as among the MAPs. And also we have female sex workers among the MAPs. And also there are other minorities that are yet still, in quotes, that are kept somewhere, like the people of the LGBTQI, okay, which still have some conflicts within Nigeria context. So these are the people we are looking at as the key population. And they are key. There is the reason why we call them key. They are key because they are very few, but they contribute immensely to HIV prevalence in Nigeria and also in Enugu State. So we see them as key because we need to really target them, we need to really program for them, we need to really make them have access to capacity building and also have access to the people in general.
All right. So you are speaking about people who on a normal day are not seen as the regular people because of their interests, because of the way they are, because of how they were born. So within the Southeast context, can you tell us or paint a picture of their living conditions and the societal prejudices that they have to contend with on a daily basis?
When you talk about the prejudices they really contend with, they contend with a lot of things. But let me start with stigma and discrimination. Okay, this set of people, they contend seriously with stigma and discrimination because the society itself has a cultural background before now, all right? And that cultural background, for example, we believe that a relationship between man and woman is the one that is acceptable, all right? So any other thing that you do, it is trying to move away from that cultural belief, all right? Now, this set of persons, they face this stigma and discrimination because of other tendencies that they have that is not actually connoting to the culture that we already know before now. Okay, so based on that fact, people see them as different sets of persons. And when you talk about stigma, we really need to first of all understand what do we mean by stigma. When you stigmatize against somebody, you are looking at labeling that person. You are looking at profiling that person. And you are doing this because you are tending to also devalue that person because the person has, maybe because the person, because of the age of the person, because of the sexual orientation of the person, because of the health status of the person, you are now stigmatizing against that person, all right? Which is also different from discrimination. Because when you talk about discrimination, you are also looking at, it is more like a process where you use, because of your position, you exercise power because of your position and deprive someone of accessing services that person is supposed to ought have accessed, because that service is made available for all the general population. But because of your own inclination and your personal biases, you are now depriving the person of that right. So based on those factors, the key population are now being seen as, people that are rejected in the society. And people now, tend to, see them as an scapegoat, target them in various instances, all right? And this has actually hampered a lot of responses in Enugu State. And let me quickly say this. Because of this level of biases, especially on stigma and discrimination, it has really affected and has really fueled HIV prevalence. Because when you stigmatize against somebody, the person will go into his own caucus, all right? Start practicing certain things without even you being on the know. Those things you are trying to run away from, you are also inheriting them. You are also welcoming them through one way or the other. And that is why we say people should actually, stay away from stigmatizing against anybody, no matter the person's status.
So, you raised a key issue, and the issue of discrimination is where it's not as easy as it seems, because you raised the key issue of the Nigerian legal framework, particularly how with respect to same-sex relations. Now, let me deviate to give an example. You see the example of someone gets shot. It might be by an armed robber. It might be an innocent student by a cultist in school. You take them to the hospital. The doctor is so afraid of the police that they don't want to treat that person. And we've lost so many people that way.
Sure.
So a lot of times, first responders or end-user relationship people who are maybe responsible for giving out drugs, medication, anything, let me play devil's advocate for them. Could it be that we're in a country like Nigeria where when the law can't get who they want to get, they go for who they believe is helping? So has anybody not thought of maybe perhaps getting some sort of privilege for these people, like lawyers have? Because no matter the kind of crime you commit, a lawyer can never be made to reveal anything. That's attorney-client privilege. We in the media enjoy the same thing with sources, even though Nigerian government tends to abuse it, and we tend to make frequent visits to, or invite, let me call them invitations to security offices. But is it not something that we should be thinking more of how to get those that interface with them the same privileges as lawyers, priests, so that perhaps if people know that there's a place they can go where nobody can be forced to reveal anything, they might be more confident.
Yeah. There are places like that. Okay, like for here in Enugu State, we have some facilities, health facilities, where we call key population-friendly facilities. Okay? There are like 6 or 7 in Enugu State. Apart from that 6 and 7, which is also for the general population, for everybody, any other person can access that facility. For example, UNTH that that is here in Enugu. Okay? It is one of the friendly centers. But apart from that, we also have the one that we call OSS, one-stop shop. This one-stop shop is basically a facility only meant for the key population. All right? But the problem still remains there. You see, we must accept this fact that the key population is more like a growing community in the society. They are not as small as what you think. Like right now in Enugu State, we have a total of 49,000 plus persons that have tested positive to HIV. And among this population, the key population contributes a higher percentage of this number. And because of that, now in Enugu State, we only have one OSS situated in Enugu North Senatorial Zone. sorry, in Enugu East Senatorial Zone, which is Enugu North local government. All right? That one OSS is not capable of serving the entire key population scattered across the 17 local governments of Enugu State. So there is still moribund services targeting this same population.
I don't mean to be controversial, but if you have an OSS that is simply for a specific group of people, is that not discrimination in itself? Because if I'm not a member of the key population and I require a service you offer, am I not being discriminated? If I go there and I'm not, like, now, let me use myself as an example. I'm not a member of any of these key populations, but I do, feel the need for, if not treatment, counseling, or because people always sometimes restrict treatment to medical. There are mental and psychological treatments and things that people need. And if I go there and I'm not a member and I'm driven away, is that not discrimination against non-key population members?
So the idea of those OSS shop was to make care available and accessible. So, sometimes because you've identified and you feel like, oh, some people are after me, you say, okay, I want to go to somewhere that is a bit private.
A safe zone.
Yes, a safe zone where you can relate those issues or things you want to discuss. But the whole idea of some of these programs we're doing, including this, is to increase advocacy, some sort of advocacy, so people know that there are a lot of other facilities, and you wouldn't really be judged because you come to a health facility where I work. It's not my personal business who you relate with, or I'm there to offer you care, strictly. That's the relationship or the interaction I have with you at that point in time. So those one-stop shops are just to make care as accessible as possible. So because we recognize that they contribute a lot to the HIV pandemic and epidemic ongoing, so you want to create multiple channels. So if they're not using this, they're using this. So at any point they think there's somewhere they can relate their problems to. So it's just like you're in a house and you say, oh, I can speak to my dad, or I can speak to my mom, or my sister is available. So you have options, you have alternatives that you could.
So I know it's non-governmental, but does the government assist?
Yes.
Yes, so the government assists in various ways.
What of the other, important institutions in Nigeria, like traditional institutions, churches, educational institutions? Because a lot of these things form, will I say, more or less the backbone of Nigeria. Yes, the structural institutions that most Nigerians depend on. We depend on our churches, traditional institutions, educational institutions. A lot of people, will I say, complement the little that they have with those institutions. So those things have more or less become, we see family, the church workers are like family. Sometimes you are in university, that's your family, the students, lecturers. So is there any relationship between your organization and these churches, schools, traditional institutions? Because it's always a quick way where there are things people will not say outside, but within their circles, they can. So is there any synergy between you and them?
Okay, there has been a lot of multiple level of synergizing and fraternizing with these organizations, or the ones that you have actually mentioned now. Now, for the state, at the state level, we have a lot of coordination meetings, okay? And these coordination meetings, some of them target the faith-based organizations, all right? Some of them also target the in-school students and also even out-school youths, all right? And within these platforms and coordination meetings, issues around key population are heavily discussed. It is not something that is kept in the news or kept somewhere differently. And in most of our meetings also, some other organizations, like, for example, let me mention, there's an organization that is owned by Catholic that is called JDPC, okay, and even CJAP and the rest of them. They are part of the consortium of our meetings, where we also tend to sensitize this particular population. And also in some of the respective activities that we do across board, for example, World AIDS, what is it called again? There are a lot of activities that we do, like August meeting outreach and the rest of them. So during the time that we do these things, we also reach out to the churches. And they also give us their platform. Even in the churches, some pastors also give us a pulpit where we discuss around HIV issues and also talk around key population issues. And we have been trying as much as how we can, to sensitize the people to stay clear from stigma and discrimination. Like I normally mention in this meeting we're having today, if we don't deal decisively with stigma and discrimination, I tell you, our HIV prevalence will continue to rise and be on the high side. Currently, as we are in Enugu here now, our prevalence rate is at 2.1. And before now, it has been higher. Before every other time, it has been higher. And across the southeast, across the whole of the southeast, Enugu State is also actually one of the states that has the highest burden. And in as much as we have a prevalence rate of 2.1, the nation has a prevalence rate of 1.4. So you can see that our HIV burden is higher than that of the nation.
So let me come quickly to Dr. Miriam. Now we're looking at the health impact. You are coming as a consultant physician, infectious disease specialist. Now we're seeing that key populations, a lot of them are actually made up of people who are into same-sex relationships. Lots of LGBTQ community members are part of this spate of the HIV prevalence that we have here in Enugu, at least. What are those factors that have led to this statistic? You know, because if we're dealing with trying to accept all of this and trying to improve the general acceptance of them in society, what are those things that can be done to reduce the spread of the infectious disease among the key populations, and how accessible is healthcare to these key populations?
Okay, so it's still part of what we've been trying to say, that healthcare is actually accessible to all of them as a Nigerian, because as a Nigerian, you're entitled to access healthcare in whichever facility you want to, depending on if it's private, public, and other logistics that might be involved. But basically, sometimes because of the stigma and discrimination they face, you don't see them accessing care. So you're ill, but you don't want to reach out. You just hide and you're within yourself.
Because you're not sure who's going to discuss your matter.
Yes, and you feel like, oh no, if I come out and all that. So it's also a medium to let them know that you could actually come out, and somebody's going to always be there to attend to you. Other things of prevention and care is still the same things offered to the general population. So HIV prevention services is not particularly different. So those things that we'll preach against and tell you do this, do that, and it will reduce your risk are still the same type of things that would be preached, abstain, practice safe sex and all the other practices. So those are still the same preachings, that apply in quotes to the general population, that also apply to the key population. So it's just a factor of reaching out, getting to those facilities. And also, we've also continued to tell healthcare workers to also be open, because sometimes some people are also not very open. So the advocacy is both for the key population and the healthcare facilities. So it's across board. So it's still the same thing of using a multi-targeted approach. So as you're approaching it from this angle, you're also approaching it from this angle. So at each point, there's some change that is occurring.
All right.
Doctor, my question for you, and it's based on something he said, which is about the prevalence in Enugu State being higher. And this is what worries me.
Yes.
Is that figure is it a good thing or a bad thing? Good thing because maybe Enugu, no, you understand when I ask this. Maybe good thing because Enugu is showing as highest because people are actually getting tested.
Okay.
And bad thing because, is it a false flag because is Enugu not actually the highest, but other states are not getting tested, so people don't even know?
Yes,
that's my actual worry.
This your question doesn't have a clear-cut answer. I'll still refer to what happened during the COVID pandemic. There were some states that said we don't have it, before later on, you had to see them reporting. Even some of them had to travel distance to other states to access such care, because they said, no, there's no COVID in our states. We don't know anything like that. So some states could be underreporting, some states could be over. But the whole idea is to preach to people, to allow them access this care, get tested. Because if you don't get tested, you can't be really accounted for. So you need to get tested. And if you get tested, you also know your health status. If you need to do some preventive measures, if you need to be on treatment, where you stand, and you make a progressive effort forwards.
All right, Mr. Martins, let's come to human rights abuses. Lots of people will not understand what we mean by human rights, because once you talk about law, human rights is immediately, 14 years imprisonment for people involved in same-sex relationships and all of that. Are there other forms of human rights abuses that these key populations go through on a daily basis from any source whatsoever within the nation?
Yeah. When you see, one of the things that we must understand is that we must also try to shrink away from presumption. When you presume that this person may be, you are not sure You've not caught the person in the act. You just saw somebody dressed, maybe skirt on the knee, and you feel that this person is a female sex worker. It is your presumption. You are not sure. And along the line, you went for a raid. You collected all these people, possibly accused them of standing on the streets and all. What I'm thinking is that there should be a better way to approach some of these things. And that is why, in our own context, we have also created, some legal background. Like what he has asked, are there legal background? Yes, we have created some legal background. There are also some persons who have trained as paralegals, okay, to address some of these issues, especially when these people are being co-opted into what they know not about. And in some instances, we know how this country runs. In some instances, you see some persons, you bring in the person, say that you accuse the person of, I'm not saying that they are not this or they are not that. But the issue is that, were you there? Did you see the person practice this thing? Okay? You don't presume. There should be an evidence fact that this person does this. And when you presume, and you label the person, and possibly because you want to make your case very, very fine, you plant something else. And so these are some of the things that makes us not to get these things right. So what I'm looking at is, hence we already, at our own contents, we have already created platform for paralegals to thrive. And also we have a sort of relationship with Nigeria Police. There is an arm of Nigeria Police that is called PACA, Police Action Committee on AIDS. We have been partnering with them, okay, to ensure that there is synergy when there is a raid and there is a clear cut that these things are not what you think. Let these ones go. We don't need to hold them and say that, so we must actually stay away from what we think, apart from what is the reality. So, but if you get somebody on the reality, on the aspect of, for example, the LGBTQ and the rest, and you get the person on the act, it's a different ballgame. But when you presume that this person does this, and this person does this, and this person injects drugs, because you have come to, like for the people that inject drugs, you see them in the bunks, okay? You come to the bunk, you raid the bunk, you did not see any strange, you did not see any person doing anything, because you have just come into the bunk, you raid them and pick them up. So these are some of the challenges we are having in the system.
All right, now this question I have is it's something I'm curious about. With regards to LGBTQ acceptance in Nigeria, where do you stand on it? And what is your stand on LGBTQ acceptance in Nigeria?
Ours is that we are coming from health perspective. We are looking at the possibility of allowing every person have access to the same thing that the general population have access to.
Whether or not you are LGBT.
Whether you are LGBT or not.
Yeah.
That is the way we are coming from.
So the main crux of the matter here now is not even the legality or not, but the stigma being a sort of restriction for people being open about what is happening to them, to the right professionals.
Do you understand me?
Exactly.
Now, for example, the MSM community, at times they come up with what we call awards. Okay? You don't treat this in a public domain. Do you get me now? So hence you restrict treatments because you have known that possibly this person got this because this person is an MSM. It becomes a challenge. So where will the person now assess care? And that same person, possibly, maybe the person is HIV positive at the cost of getting the awards, and the person will sue and say, okay, because I got it from this person, let me continue the sharing. And all of us are eloped in all these things, because HIV is a thing of, it's either you are infected or you are affected. So we will find a way around all these things.
We're running out of time, but I almost feel like we've run out of time actually, but we can't go without this. I almost feel like we've neglected the female sex workers in the whole key population. We focused on one key aspect. And the reason I asked is because when you mentioned police, it triggered my mind. Being in the media, I've had many of them recount to me about being arrested, being molested, being raped, when they are raided frequently, by various security agencies. And my worry is this not making the people who arrest, molest, and rape them more efficient transmitters of disease than the girls themselves? Is that not something we need to start discussing now? Because I don't know if you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah, no, I do.
These girls imagine you raid the place now.
Yeah.
You raid these girls, they molest them, they rape them.
Yeah.
If any of those girls is infected, that person has become
That was why
a
I
carrier,
told you, Abi,
and the next girls you rape, you are.
Yeah, so that's why the girls too need to be assessing care. It's not like you're preaching that somebody should come and molest them, but if they're assessing care, whether prevention, treatment, so they'll probably be suppressed and be living a healthy life. And so they are not likely to transmit.
I'm not talking about the people who read them.
I understand where you're coming from.
But you know,
not even the girls now, but those who.
Yeah, so but for the transmission to occur, you understand, somebody has to be infected either way. So it's either the girls or the person. So it's either you're giving it this way or the other way. Yeah, so if everybody is assessing care, so you know this whole advocacy thing, even though we are really focusing on key population, but the whole idea is to reduce the HIV prevalence. Yeah, so whether it's the key population, we just singled out because they are really a group contributing a lot. But the whole preaching is for everybody in general to reduce the HIV pandemic. So if people are adopting preventive measures, being on treatment if they're infected, then definitely the transmission rate is going to be very low, minimal.
Drastically drop. I know you want to add to that. Please go ahead and share your insights on that. While you also tell us what you think accounts for people who actually know that they are HIV positive, going ahead to spread. There are people who probably have had sexual relations with sex workers and they know they've contracted it. They've tested positive, but they go ahead continuing to sleep with women, spreading it. You know, what accounts for that kind of behavior?
Well, that is actually one of the reasons why we are here. We need to sensitize. We need to aggressively sensitize. We also need to ensure that we push sensitization as part of our key deliverables as far as HIV response is concerned. Let me quickly say this. This set of persons, they do this because they lack knowledge. And before they started lacking knowledge, that means they have also presumably have a concept of stigma and discrimination. All these things are revolving around stigma and discrimination. Yes, because had it been that you have welcomed that person, that would be an issue. And all other persons in the general population have been saying that, listen, that person positive, come, let's see a way out of it. Then there will be a new trend that these things are being solved. Let us find a way to solve this problem. And every person would have their same mindset, okay? And people will now be willing to come and know their HIV. Do you know that, let me quickly say, do you know that currently in Enugu State, the number of persons that are already positive, who does not even know that they are positive, is even higher than the number of persons that are positive, that who knows that they are positive. That means there is a lot of people in the cloud who are being, mingling with the whole society. They don't want to come and know their HIV status because of fear, because of that cultural background problem which we have inherited, where people feel that coming to know this, what if I test positive, what will happen? That they are biased already.
So what is the pathway forward?
The pathway is we continue sensitization. We continue with advocacy visits, reaching out to the unreached. Like what he has said, the faith-based organization and other civil society organizations and all other authorities, even National Human Rights Commission and the rest of them. They should be part of this particular process to enhance gender and human rights.
Very important. Thank you so much. But before we leave, can you tell us about NSACA? NSACA, you're the program lead. Tell us about that.
Okay, NSACA is Enugu State Agency for the Control of AIDS. Okay, they coordinate the multi-sectoral response of HIV and AIDS in Enugu State. All
right. Thank you so much for being here today, Mbo Martins and Dr. Juliet Merem, consultant physician, infectious disease specialist, UNCH Enugu. We'll continue to, spread the word, continue to push this message. Acceptance is key. Everyone deserves a fair life. It's important. Thank you once again.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And in case you missed this, do well to check it out on YouTube. This program is proudly sponsored by AGHI and HIVO's Foundation. Thank you once again for being a part of this.